Right, Barrett. Thank you so much for joining me today, man. I really appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on.
So how's your day going? How are your cats? I found out we were
Great.
fellow tuxedo cat dads.
Yeah, they're just hanging out. They always get me up at a decent time. I'm kind of on a later schedule right now because I just wrapped on a shoot that went into a night shoot, so I'm waking up a little later than normal. But yeah, they help with that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. What were you shooting?
New feature with Collingwood Film Company. It's called Turn It Up. It's a horror comedy that's got a lot of rock and roll infused and it's got some Lovecraftian stuff involved. So should be a lot of fun.
Hell yeah, that sounds really intriguing, actually. So you are up in Canada, right?
Yeah, yeah. I live in
Yeah.
Toronto.
Okay, cool. I am down in Raleigh, North Carolina. Do you ever get down to the States much to shoot?
I haven't shot anything down that way, but I've been down there a bunch this year. Actually, I was in Florida and New Orleans and New York, and well, in Utah earlier too for Sundance. So I've been in the States a lot recently.
Yeah, I saw the thing that you guys did in New York with the premiere of In a Violent Nature. That was so cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Great.
So that was you in costume, like walking around and shit.
Yeah, yeah. We did
Okay.
that. We did that at so we did it there, and I was walking around like at the ferry after the screening, and then we did it in New Orleans. So I was walking up and down Bourbon Street in the Johnny costume.
How hot was that with that
That
mask
was a
on it?
little. It was a little toasty.
I
We
was
did it
about
two
to.
different days, and the second day was it was pretty warm.
Yeah.
But that was
What's the breathing? How does that mask breathe? It doesn't look like it would very well.
not too well. I mean, so there's different versions of it. The eyes pop out so
Okay.
that I could see a lot better. But when we're doing the gag, like walking around and dealing with people and everything, it's the full mask, the glasses in and everything too. So it does get pretty hot. It fogs up in there, so you can't see very well. So
Uh-huh.
you kind of you're looking at like blurry blobs, kind of, and have to judge your distance, how close you're getting to people and stuff.
Right. Where is that mask? The mask from the movie today. Do you have it? Does Chris have it?
I believe the movie one is actually in the Grove right now. It's on in display.
Oh.
The whole actual costume from the film. Yeah, I think that's where it is. But
Okay.
you can look it up, and there's actually there's photos of it. I was showing the photos of it on display there, and I've seen other people take photos of it. I'm pretty sure that's where it is.
Wait, yeah, I did see that. Are you gonna try to after they take down the display, you're gonna be like, hey man, let me I kinda want it.
I mean, I'd love to have it, but I also get well, Chris made it, like he designed it himself too. But then I don't know if I'm sure like Shutter IFC owns it at this point too. So I think it's one of those things where it's if it comes into play in future possibilities, I don't know. Probably they're just keeping it safe.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll hit on that. So Chris made the mask. I know it was like a 1900s firefighter mask. So did he just he was like, I want that look, and he constructed the whole thing?
Yeah, I think so. Like he definitely he knew exactly what the mask was, and designed it. And then they had done some initial shooting, and it wasn't. I don't know if it wasn't working the way that he wanted to, or just looking the way it did. I think it stayed propped up a little too much.
Uh-huh.
So then he went back and kind of redesigned some things and made it work better.
Yeah, because I had the idea of like, hey, I'm going to go on eBay and get a 1890s, 1900 firefighter mask. And then I saw the asking prices for those masks, and I was like, maybe not. I don't have,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
have $4,000.
Kind of got to make it yourself at this point. I know there's some bootleg ones I think online right now already too. So, but they're probably made out of plastic.
Yeah, as I have been rewatching the movie, I'm like, okay, so I bet for the earpiece you could get like a vintage telephone, take out a piece of that, stitch that. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
hope I can get one someday.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if they'll end up. I guess it all depends on if they start making official versions of them. I don't know if they'll actually be leather or not, but
Right.
I'd love to have something to like hang on a wall or something.
Yeah, definitely. So the movie so far has hit over 3 million. Last time I checked. How does that feel? Like, were you guys expecting this at all for it to take off this way?
No, not
Yeah.
at all. I mean, I like, even like with Chris and the producers, even they knew this was such like it's a very niche idea
Yeah.
for a genre film in general. Um, but for those who liked the idea and wanted to see that, like it was very, a very appealing idea. And for myself, I'm a huge horror fan too, and I love classic slashers and all kinds of stuff. But I really wanted to see what this movie, when I first found out what it was in the script, I really wanted to see it myself. So then it's just kind of one of those things where it got into Sundance, and that was a massive surprise. We were expecting to get into some festivals, but like nothing on that level really. And then that just kind of ballooned from there. And then Shutter and IFC have been great with marketing it and making sure it is getting out there, and people are hearing about it. But just like the simple fact that this little Canadian horror movie that we shot in the middle of the woods way up north is getting people to come out, and it's just such a it's a strange film. Like, it's not made for everybody. So the fact
Hmm.
that there's this many people going out to the theater to see it is fantastic. And it seems like a lot of people love it too. Like, I know there's people who hate it. Like, it is completely just not up their alley, and that's totally fine too.
We are, yeah, we're gonna touch on the people that are wrong about the movie. We'll talk about that later, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But I
No,
mean,
I
yeah,
mean, hey,
it's all a
everybody has
surprise.
opinions. It's all subjective, but
Exactly. It's a massive surprise. We're all very happy with it, and extremely surprised, and just kind of going with the flow, and loving seeing that it's doing what it is.
yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm very stoked for you guys. So you said that you were a big horror fan. So going into this role, were you like taking bits and pieces from different slasher villains, or was your goal to like make this your own, put your unique stamp on it?
I mean, yeah, I did. I wanted to, kind of make the character my own, but at the same time, it was very distinct what Chris wanted out of Johnny to like, what for Johnny to be this very distinct thing, because you kind of have to have the audience know exactly what he is for the jumping point, the starting point of the film, so that everyone can kind of just be on board and understand that he's sort of this, undead killing machine, that it's very similar to Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers, but then, is his own thing. And that's what I tried to do too, just take bits and pieces from all the performances that I really respect and love the best over the years, and take little bits of that and kind of merge it all together, and give homage and nods, but then not fully steal anything, or try to
Right.
copy anything. And then I did another little thing with that, using all that, and then with the action sequences, that when Johnny jumps into like kill mode, I watched a lot of animal attack videos, like specifically bear attack videos, just seeing the difference of the pacing that they jump into, and how they become this other just vicious creature when they do that. So I just kind of tried to add that in there too.
Yeah, and I want to touch on the ending later, and like the thematic elements, like that reflection scene of like what this movie is really about. And yeah, I kind of took away from it that the movie is almost about nature itself. Like, nature is unforgiving and violent. A lot of people seem to have a problem with the ending. And okay, was there ever discussion about, hey, let's go the super cliche route, have Johnny jump out of the woods, kill the driver and the girl, and go that obvious route? Or was this always the plan, to have it be subdued? And
There actually was another ending written when I got the first script, and it was kind of this big, formulaic build to this conclusion that, the two characters come, and it's like this big face off between them and Johnny, and it's kind of exactly what you've seen in a lot of slasher films.
yeah.
But then as the movie was being made, Chris I think he kind of had a realization that he's like, this whole thing is about changing expectations and flipping what you would expect, and just changing up the formula basically too, like giving that familiar formula, but then changing that up as you go. And even does that with the perspective too. It's constantly changing. Even though you're with Johnny, that ending flips, and so it's kind of in tone with the whole film. And I think some people I don't know. It's totally subjective too. I like it because it does give that moment, and it's all about the build and the fact that like Johnny's still there. His presence is so built up
Exactly.
through the movie that in that ending scene you're just waiting for him. Like I knew that I wasn't gonna pop out, but I was still waiting for myself to jump out and
Yeah.
attack Lauren or Andrea. But like that's what that was all about, and to kind of lean into endings like Halloween, where it's all about leaving that dread out there, and Texas
Yeah.
Chainsaw Massacre, they're still out there. And then this was kind of Chris's idea of what would that conversation be like after they got away, sort of thing, in the truck at the end of Texas. So like,
Yeah.
it's kind of a it's a bunch of things, but I understand why some people it's not for them. It's a very different. It's kind of like the ending of No Country for Old Men too, with the speech with Tommy
Dude.
Lee Jones.
Yeah, exactly. I did a podcast last week and I brought up No Country for Old Men because I got vibes of that movie in this. And I've always said, if you take away Anton Chigurh's shotgun and put a knife in his hand and throw a mask on him, we're talking about like one of the greatest slashers of all time.
Yeah, he's fantastic in that, and his threat is there through the whole film too. So, but yeah, and Chris has even mentioned like that's the thing with this movie. It is a love letter to slasher films, and all these specifically the '80s ones that we grew up with and '90s. But then it's also very kind of art house film based off of like Gus Van Sant and Coen Brothers. I mean, specifically that.
Yeah.
And like different films and interpretations of things that are kind of all injected in there. So it's a different kind of film, different experience. And
yeah, and I've been so confused by the criticism because I've been in this horror space for a long time, and one of the most common things you hear is like, we're tired of cliches and jump scares. And when the cliches aren't there, they're like, hey, where are the cliches? And it's like,
yeah.
What do you want? Like, we got something unique, something I've never seen before. I mean, I absolutely love the movie. And so I was a little taken back by all the criticism, but you can't make everybody happy, is what it is.
And honestly, if it was a film that just kind of went down the middle safe route, then no one would be talking about it. So it's true. Like you're whenever somebody loves something, there's gonna be somebody who hates it just as much. So it's like, as long as you got the audience that you were looking for, and that's what it's made for. And I get it. Like it's a different pace of a film. Like if you sat down and watch Gus Van Sant's Elephant or Jerry, they're very similar in a way. Like it's it's a hangout film with these characters, and you just kind of go along for the ride. So this is kind of a hangout film with a serial slasher.
You've seen It Follows, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I would say I got a lot of vibes from that with this movie as well. Just the way that it naturally unfolds and takes its time. And I feel like people are so accustomed to like just the heightened sense of reality in movies. Like not every character needs to have witty dialogue and the perfect thing to say, because that's not what life is like. So like this felt more like a documentary almost.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see that too. I mean, it's kind of given that like wildlife, documentary, like just walking in the woods and seeing the beautiful scenery and stuff, but you're with this character.
Yeah. So going back to your inspiration for the role, do you have like a favorite sort of subtle movement or just a moment, something whenever you watch back, you're like, oh, I'm glad I threw that little detail in there. Sort of like Michael Myers with the head tilt, like every villain has their own little touch.
Part of the Johnny movement is it was just like I just tried to keep every muscle tense at all times, but then to move at a slower pace, like kind of working against itself. Mm-hmm. But there's little moments where I love because I'm wearing a mask and I don't see my face, I can kind of separate myself like from this film. So it's kind of nice. Whereas other films, you're an actor, you're kind of picking apart your facial features and your what you're emoting and everything. But there's one little moment actually. It's the background of what you have right there, the end of the cliff scene, there's a moment where Johnny kind of just
Oh,
takes a tiny little
okay.
step and he's looking out over the cliff after what he's done, after this terrible thing he's just done.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of, I don't know what it is. I don't know if I did it or if it was just kind of, they were rolling and they captured it in the moment and it got edited in there. But Johnny just takes like a little bit of a step, and it's like he's just admiring the beauty of what he's just done. And it's
Yeah. I mean, little moments like that they add up to make the full character. And yeah, the way you like just kick the body down the hill, there are like some kind of humorous moments in the movie.
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like when you broke the window to the ranger station and you just tossed the severed head in. I was like, this is hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's the humor's there on purpose for sure.
Okay.
That was, I think specifically Chris was, and it was my first time watching it at Sundance, so I think he was a little nervous that people weren't gonna laugh at the moments that are supposed to be funny, but everyone at every reaction that I've seen theatrically has laughed at all the right moments, and then like some other moments too that you don't even realize. Then I watch it, and I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. Like,
yeah, and also
definitely
there's moments that are so extreme that the only appropriate reaction is to laugh. Like, this is so brutal that it's funny.
Yeah. Exactly. It's the excess. I think there's one part where I think it's like on the 7th hit, there's a certain part of the film, the 7th hit always gets a laugh, because it's like, that's when everyone realizes that it's too much, and it's just going to keep going.
Yeah. So as far as the makeup process goes, how long did it take you to get all that on and get suited up? What was that like?
Like the general Johnny outfit, like just the head to toe, the mask, that didn't take too long. And there was an underbody armor that had like fake skin on it, like silicone. So I'd put that on, then another layer, and then there's like the shirt and the helmet. And then on days where I had the cowl on, where you just saw the back of Johnny's like kind of decaying bald head, that was a whole piece. So I would just pull that down and it would come down across and have an open face. And then the day where you actually see Johnny's face, that was a full makeup. Steve Costanzi came and did that. That took about, I think, close to 3 hours to do all the prosthetics and everything and kind of seal it to the head. And not too bad generally for most stuff. And then, it was just like that one day that we did the full face.
Yeah, that speaking of that moment where you see your face, when you're playing with the toy car, that was another thing that just added dimension to the character that I really appreciated, and almost made you sympathetic for Johnny in a way. But
yeah, it's kind of the Frankenstein's monster moment where, you see him, you do get that feeling knowing that, in his past, you've heard the story already and everything. And and this is after you've seen him do terrible things too. So it's kind of manipulating with the audience. And then he puts his helmet right back on and does more terrible things right after. So it's kind of, it gives you this moment to feel with him. But I mean, that's almost like an animalistic thing too, right? Like how animals can go from vicious to just being at one with nature. And then all of a sudden they're attacking somebody. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to ask you about the scene where the log splitting machine scene, that feels like it draws out forever in a good way, like with the sound of the machine going, being that there was no score in the movie, it's just so loud, and by the end of it you're like, get me out of this shed.
It's that. So what were you gonna ask about it?
Oh no. Okay. Well, side note, I've never seen people get up and walk out of a movie, but after the head gets cut off, I saw a couple get up and they were like, all right, we're leaving. But as somebody that grew up kind of infatuated with special makeup effects, I can usually tell, like, okay, there's a cut there, I see the prosthetic there, I see what they did with that scene. Maybe please enlighten me and tell me how the hell you guys pulled off that decapitation scene, because he's blinking up until the last second. He's blinking while the thing is on his neck. So how did you guys do that?
That particular, because it's kind of a long shot too.
Very long shot.
That was a long shot. It was locked off, and I had to be really careful not to hit anything out of place, because So basically, they had Reese Presley, the actor who played the Ranger. He was there from the majority of it, but then we replaced him with a dummy, very carefully in the exact same kind of the way that he's laid out. And then they basically superimposed his eyes. So they took a framing of his eyes, and because it was locked off, they can match it exactly to the dummy. And then they use that up until the moment. And yeah, but I mean, the dummy itself looks amazing. Like when you look at it up close, it looks exactly like Reese. It's just missing that eye movement. But then when you add that, it just looks completely real.
Yeah, it completely fooled me. And I almost thought you were going to say, oh, we just killed a guy. That's how we did it.
Yeah, we got close to it. But no, it's funny. It's funny you say that too about that scene, because the way I've seen it reacted to too, that's where the movie truly becomes a horror movie. I mean, you get your big scenes before that, but they're so excessive that there's some funny moments involved, and it's kind of those classic slasher kills where you're like, people are cheering at the end because it's so crazy. But the splitter scene, that's when it gets to everybody, and that was Chris's intention too. That's why the motor is running so loud and it's extended and drawn out. He was like, I really want to push it. Like, this is you want gore? Here's the blood. Like, here it is. And just kind of like, throws it in the audience's face, sort of. And that's, like, it is the horror moment that I see in the film. That's kind of like nobody's cheering at the end of that one.
Yeah, that just felt like I was watching, I don't know, Faces of Death or something. I was like, I mean, I love the scene, but yeah, it wasn't like, hey, this is campy and fun. This was like, God damn, this is brutal.
Yeah, it's like he's brought you along for the ride. And he's like, if you're still here, he's like, all right, here's some real horror for a minute or two.
Yeah. So, what was your favorite kill of the movie? The most fun to shoot, or
I keep saying that. I mean, and at the same time, I do love all of them, which they pulled off in a different kind of way, and they all each sort of have their magic. But I do love the yoga kill scene, just for its creativity and how far it goes, and the starting point, and being there watching the special effects. It was just like, I'm such a geek when it comes to practical effects and seeing how things get pulled off. And when I read the script, it was in there line for line exactly as is. And a lot of times you'll see scenes, maybe not that extreme, but you'll see scenes in scripts that don't fully get to happen, either because of timing or budget, or it just doesn't work the way that was planned to. But this is exactly what I kind of pictured in my head. So reading that, and then being there on the day and shooting it, and just watching it all, and then seeing how it all came together, it was pretty fucking cool.
And how long did that entire sequence take to shoot? Because I know there were a lot of effect shots that you needed to get, like close-ups and pull the head through the stomach, and
it was about, I want to say about 2 full days.
Oh, like, wow.
The lead up to her being on the cliff, and us walking up, approaching, and then right up to the edge of the cliff, and then we actually had to come back. I forget the exact time framing of that, because we did shoot it in blocks, but it was at least 4 or 5 months, I think, that we had to come back and shoot the rest of the effects sequence, which was like a full day in of itself. And then I know they also added some insert stuff, so it would have been 2 full days of shooting on location, and then adding a little more blood and neck snaps and all that stuff.
A little, okay. More than a little, but yeah, dude, yeah, that kill was just, I don't think since like Terrifier 2 or something, there's been one of those, oh, wait until you see that kill, and everybody's talking about the yoga kill.
Yeah, and and that was it. Chris wanted to do something, Johnny has the drag hooks, and he wanted to do something interesting with them. And so he just thought up of the most elaborate kind of thing that he could. And when I first read it, I was like, so are you actually going to do all, I think I actually asked him at one of our meetings, you're going to actually do all that? And he's like, oh yeah, we got the body already cast, and we're doing this. And I was just like, this is going to be so much fun to watch. I don't even know how logistically it's going to be pulled off, but then it worked. Yeah.
Was there ever a moment while you're in character where you look down at these, even though you know that they're effects, you're like, damn, like this is making me a little squeamish?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it in person, like on the day and it looks that good, you know it's gonna sell. And like I know there's supposed to be some moments that aren't supposed to be like perfectly realistic because it's such a crazy moment, like when when she's getting pulled and all that stuff. So it's like it is a surreal kind of moment just seeing that stuff too. But then it also looking real when you're right there. It's just there's so much blood and you get to hear all the sound of the goops dropping to the ground and splatting. And there was one moment where I think it was like one of the big bursts. There's a big like a blood cannon almost that they had, and it just blasted out. And Chris was like hiding behind a plastic bag, and you just see this blood like just just cover the bag.
That's great, man. So being that this movie has been so successful, I guess the obvious question is like, are we going to see Johnny again? Has Chris been kicking around any ideas? Has he approached you about anything?
There's mentions of it, and I know there's more talk about it now, just with what's happening with the film and everything. And Chris did have an idea, and I don't know if I'm sure he has multiple ideas that he's throwing around. But I know one of them was a bit of a prequel idea, which I don't know how far back it goes, or because this film almost feels like it's a third or fourth installment.
Yeah.
So you could kind of go back and tell one of those stories ahead of time, or you could go forward. One of the tricks is trying to make it, go against expectation and be something fresh at the same time too. So it's kind of it's a tough thing to pull off with a sequel for something that's very different to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I would be so stoked for a sequel. I mean, I would think like just putting Johnny in suburbia, like have the thought of Johnny walking around a neighborhood, like sign me up. Just give me that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 100% in for it if they do it. If they want to do another one, I'm definitely in to play Johnny again. It'd be a lot of fun. And the same thing, I'm like, I'd love to see him in different settings, and like I'd love to see a corporation come in and start ripping up the woods, and then he goes after them or something. I don't know. There's a lot of ideas out there that could.
I was thinking like opening shot is the exact same thing as the first one, but you just hear this machinery slowly coming in, and a bulldozer just bulldozes the fire tower, and you see the locket like get put in a log truck, and it travels into a town, and that's where Johnny goes. I don't know.
That's a great starting point.
Hey, hit up Chris. Say, hey, I got an idea. I feel like with a movie like this for a possible sequel, it's almost like Jackass. They're thinking of the stunts or like the death scenes, and then they build the movie around that. Like, have you thought of any? Sorry, I know it's weird to compare In a Violent Nature to Jackass, but anyways.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying though.
Yeah, have you thought of any, like, oh, let me write that down and send that to Chris? Like, here we go.
I don't know. I mean, I've thought about like what Johnny could kind of get into, and that's one of the ideas I was thinking about with that. If a corporation came in or something like that, there'd be all this construction gear around and just endless stuff to use, right? So
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it would just be a lot of fun to see what he can do in the future. If there, maybe he goes up and he sees a foundation and there's a bunch of rebar spikes there, and I don't know, who knows what he's going to do with that, right?
Yeah, that would be great. So yeah, where can all the listeners find you?
I'm not on a whole lot, but I'm on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. It's just the Rye Barrett. I just named it that because there was other Rye Barretts on there, and I didn't want to put numbers in there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then same on Facebook. I'm just Rye Barrett. I think I'm pretty easy to find on there too. And yeah, that's
check out.
I guess I'm on TikTok too, but I'm not on there that often. I kind of more scroll than actually post anything.
Sure. So yeah, guys, if you're listening, give Rye a follow. He has many pictures of his adorable cat, so it's a good follow.
I got some good cat pics. Like cats.
Yeah. Sorry, one last question. I did see that Stephen King gave you a shout out. Gave the movie I mean, what was that like? Because obviously you're a big Stephen King fan, so
yeah, it still is just kind of mind blowing and surreal, and I'm a massive fan. I've been reading his stuff since I was like a kid, since before I probably should have been reading his stuff.
Yeah.
So just, I was sitting outside and we were all kind of talking about it because, you know, a few people have posted, celebrities and stuff have posted some things, and we're just kind of, every time we're blown away. And so we're like, oh, I wonder if Stephen King does it. And I was just crossing my fingers. I'm like, I was like, that won't happen, whatever. And then he did. And it was just kind of like this. I was sitting out on my balcony reading, and I jumped up and looked at my phone. And I was like, I just started yelling Stephen King. And my partner, she came running out, and she thought that one of the cats actually fell off the balcony because I was yelling.
Uh-huh.
I saw the post. So I was kind of losing my mind over it. So yeah, it's still just it's a crazy thing to even think that he's seen something that I've done, and you know, he's entertained me for so many years with so many words and great stories. So that's just, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, print out that tweet and frame it. I don't know if you have
definitely
yet.
gonna be doing that.
And anytime somebody criticizes the movie, just send a screenshot of that and be like, "Hey, if Stephen King likes it, I'm cool with your
yeah."
criticism.
Well, that's the funny thing. There's even a quote, or somebody's mentioned on that when he tweeted that. Somebody's like, "The movie's slow and boring, just like your books."
Oh God.
So, like, it's, you know, you can't please everyone. Even Stephen King has his detractors, so it's, you know, it's what it is.
Yeah. We're not even gonna dignify that and respond to how dumb that statement is, but whatever. All right, Rye. Well, dude, I appreciate this so much. Thank you. Yeah, looking forward to all your future work. So, yeah, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. It was good chatting with you.
Hell yeah, likewise. All right, take care, man.
You too.